Hey everybody, how are you guys doing? I am making this video because I realized that when we were talking about the thousand-year reign or the thousand-year kingdom, that I was all over the place. So I just wanted to make this to kind of more slow down and more step by step and help walk you guys along with what I meant to tell you guys last night and to help you get a better understanding. So we're actually just gonna take just with what we talked about with the amillennialism, premillennialism, and postmillennialism. We're actually just going to focus on the premillennialism because that's what Beulah Baptist and what I personally believe as well. That's how we view the thousand-year kingdom of Christ and why it is a literal thousand-year kingdom and not a symbolic or metaphorical one. And as we talked about the main verse that goes around that is Revelation 20 verses 1 to 10. We see John writing about his experience seeing as Satan is thrown in this trap for 1,000 years while Christ comes, establish this 1,000-year reign, this 1,000-year kingdom, and Satan is trapped there till the end of that reign. And then after that, Satan comes and for the rest of chapter 20, comes back to build up an army, and then Christ gets his army to battle Satan and the people that have lined up with him. But that 1,000-year reign, is that symbolic, is that literal? And the premillennialism view, which means that pre means before, so it means Christ will come back before that kingdom is set up, so that he can set up that 1,000-year reign. So, let's actually talk about why do we believe that, why is that even a view? Because we don't see it in the rest of the Bible. We don't see that term 1,000-year reign, only in Revelation 20. But we actually see in the Old Testament a lot, and a handful of times, which we see in first, and well, when we are reading it, we first see it in Psalm 72, verses 8 to 14, when it's talking about this king or this Messiah will be reigning, God will be reigning, and things will be good. It sounds like the new heaven and the new earth, but then it talks about how he will be helping the oppressed and the poor and meeting their needs. But we know in the new heaven and new earth that won't be a situation that will need to be met. There will be no needy, there will be no oppression happening. So in that psalm, we get this idea, it's like, well, but right now, yes, Christ is king and he is God and he is reigning, but not everyone is bowing down to him, where Psalm 72 is pointing to. Psalm 72 is pointing to that all these kings are bowing down to him, which are not. We see today that that's not happening, but we still see oppression. So this 1,000-year kingdom is pointing to actually this in between what we're living now and what we will be living in. So it's like a in between, transition kingdom. But we see again this idea, this thought in Isaiah 65:20. But we see it fully in 20 to 25. But in verse 20, it talks about, no longer will there be in it an infant who lives only a few days. And then it continues on in verse 20. For the youth will die at the age of 100, and the one who does not reach that age will be thought accursed. So we see people living longer, but they're still dying. But right now we live in an age where, yes, some people might live to 100, 110, 120, but that's not the norm. The norm is more like 70, 80, maybe 90. But that 70, 80 range is the more the average, the norm. So, but if Isaiah is talking about, but the norm in this time will be living to 100, and we actually don't live to the age of 100, you'll thought that something's wrong with you. Like, you have a curse on you. Like, there's, like, it's below the normal, below the average to die younger. So Isaiah's like, it's pointing to a future kingdom. But we also know in the new heaven and new earth that there is no death. So, if there's no death in the new heaven and new earth, but what Isaiah is describing, there is death, but the average lifespan is at least 100, if not longer. But the average is like everyone's at least living to 100. If you're living less than that, then of course there's something wrong. But that's not what the age we live in now. So there's this idea that we see in the Old Testament that so far there's this kingdom, this life that we're not quite seeing yet, but it's also not what we see in Revelation 21 and 22. So it's this in-between transition period. It's not purgatory, but it's more the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And we see it one more time in the minor prophet Zechariah, chapter 14, 5 to 17. In verse 9, it talks about the Lord will be king over all the earth. And later on it says, and his name, the only one. So like, the Lord will be king over all the earth, and his name will be the only one that has this power. And then later on it talks about how the people that don't worship Christ as king, or worships this king, will die. But again, if there is death in this kingdom, that means it can't be the new heaven and earth, because Revelation 21:4 tells us there will be no more death. But right now, we know that Christ is not king over all the earth. Sadly, that there's people that are ruling, that if Christ was king over all the earth, like physically right now, then there won't be as much evil going on. There won't be as much disaster. There'll be a lot more peace, a lot more unity. And also, his name's not the only one being praised or being pointed to king. There's other religions that are out there that are proclaiming their God as king, or other people that are saying like, no, I'm king. So we know that this, what Zechariah 14, 5 to 17 is talking about, is not what we're living in now, but also it's clearly not what Revelation 21, 4 and Revelation 22 is talking about. So it must mean that there's this other transition kingdom period that we must be looking forward to. So this 1,000-year kingdom, or this 1,000-year reign, that Christ will come back in his second coming to set up, is this transition before the new heaven and new earth. And when that little 1,000-year reign is done, the new heaven and new earth will come after that. After the battle between Satan and Jesus, between the evil army of Satan and the righteous, glorious, holy army of Jesus. They'll fight, Jesus will win, and throw Satan in the lake of fire for eternity. So we see that the premillennial view makes the most sense, because amillennial and postmillennial don't handle the best dealing with how Satan is trapped for that 1,000 years. But premillennial does. So like, in this 1,000-year kingdom, Satan won't be having that power as much as he will be. But there will still be sin and evil in it. There'll still be death. But Christ will be king. So I hope that this video, this kind of like more slowing down and focusing just on premillennialism, helps understand why Revelation 20 verses 1 to 10 and the verses I mentioned before point to and add up to why premillennialism makes the most sense. Have a great day, guys.